All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Walking with Beau, an almost daily walking vlog. Did not walk yesterday because my left big toe was feeling a little weird, and also I had mowed the property with a, it's not a push mower, but it's a self-drawn, you know, walk behind lawnmower. We don't have one of those fancy riding mowers because well, there's a bunch of reasons, the main one being storage. And I'm gonna go this way to get less traffic, and I'm gonna take my it may come out to about a 6-mile walk, I think. So anyway, as you can see, it's a beautiful day today. It is low humidity, which is good. The dew point is about 56, which is moderate. 79 degrees, which is perfect. And this is the weather you typically get in Maine for most of summer. So that oppressive southern tropical, ungodly, miserable tropical humidity has blown out of town. So that's okay, that's good. So instead of walking at night, I'm going to walk during the day, late afternoon, and should be enjoyable, I think. So we got a lot of political stuff going on, as one would expect. It's pretty crazy right now, but it's expected. It's starting to level off, but it's temporary. I'll get into that more shortly. Cable high-speed internet salesman. I believe it's Ophidium and Gone Speed or something like that. Gonad Speed. Anyway, so been walking at least 5 miles every day, and my big toe on my left foot was getting a little tender. Just in front of where it bends on my foot, where the big knuckle joint is for the big toe. So I still think that might be a little bit of arthritis kind of thing. I know my dad was bothered by that arthritis, and most people are when they get older, so doesn't mean I like it any. Now I was watching some hiking videos online with younger people that go hiking. And they are doing all this hiking as young people. Oh, today we're hiking 20 miles. Oh, okay, great. I'm really happy for you. Woods hiking too, trail hiking. That's the worst kind. So that's more like 30 miles is what it feels like. But they did stop in the middle and sleep in a cabin type thing overnight and resume their walk the next day to head back. And also they don't hike every day. So I kind of took that into consideration. I was like, well, I'm doing 5 miles every day. You know, it's 5 to 6 miles. You know, times 7. Well, minus yesterday because I didn't walk, but generally speaking, 7 days a week. That's 35 to 40 miles a week. So if somebody is going to go hiking on the weekend and hike 30 miles, they have the whole rest of the week to recover from it. So it's a lot more doable. And I'm pretty sure I could do that now. You know, hike, I don't know, 12 and a half miles and then sleep overnight in a cabin thing or a tent, and then do 12 and a half miles the next day. And then you get the whole rest of the week of not walking. So, you know, I actually think what I do every day has more wear and tear, and it has more health benefits, I think. I mean, common sense would dictate that, I think. So, anyway, right now in politics, wow, geez, a lot of lunacy going on. I think at some point the media is going to have to start questioning Kamala Harris on her policies. They're trying to ignore her, let her run TV ads and spots, and you've probably seen the networks promoting her rallies that she's had, boasting about how big they are, and they're rivaling Donald Trump's, and this is like a vibe we haven't seen since Obama. And that's nonsense. They're using a hi. I'm talking to my camera people.
I can tell.
Thank you. So it's one of those things where they are thinking that they're rivaling Donald Trump's rallies. And each one of these rallies that they show video from, they had rented national Grammy award-winning acts performing at them. So they have the money to pay for these big concerts. And that's why when the concert is over, people leave. She found that out in Atlanta. So what they're doing now, from what I understand, is that she is speaking before the concert. And because then they have to stay there waiting for their free concert and listen to her. So that one in Atlanta was the opposite. The R&B act performed, and when they were done, people were starting to leave because their free concert was over. So anyway, the free concert that she gave was a local Grammy award-winning artist. Can't even begin to tell you the name. I don't even know who the hell's making music anymore. But there was thousands of people standing in line to see a free concert. So they know that the PR they're going to get from this is pretty big. So that's what they're doing with that. It really does make for an impressive looking video if they were all there to see Kamala, but they weren't, so that's just a fact. She was the most unpopular vice president, and I can tell you from polling that she has made big gains among young people. That is obvious, probably expected, because Biden had lost a lot of them. So her 1% gain in the polls, which by the way is all she's gained, and in fact 2 polls out today have Trump back up ahead between 2 and 5 points. So these same polling companies had it just about tied last week. So those are 2 brand new polls. Some of the other ones that are going to come out aren't going to be accurate. That's just what they're going to do. Okay, so like I said, take like 12 polls and make your own average. That's unfortunately what we're stuck with. We're also stuck with the media, who's going to do everything possible to make Trump lose, including not fact-checking Kamala Harris when she says things like Trump says he's going to be a dictator. And obviously that and the bloodbath comment, she used that again at this rally with all these thousands of people there. Trump promises a bloodbath if he loses. Well, what he said was an economic bloodbath, because if he loses, our car industry is going to go to Mexico and it's going to be an economic bloodbath. Very common economic term. He's used to using that in business. In hindsight, I'm sure he would have chose a different word, but that's why we like him. He's not a politician. So let them play their shenanigans. And right now we got Tampon Timmy tampons. Right? And we call them Timmy tampons because he signed a bill into law that put tampons in boys' bathrooms at schools. All the way down to age 9, okay? So you understand that they push the transgender ideology in Minnesota like they do in Maine here. And sometimes 9-year-old girls will start menstruating. It's pretty rare, but it does happen. So you see a lot of these people that want to be kind. So they go along with this, even though they don't really agree with it. They're kind of like, well, we want to be accommodating, and you know, if these people feel these things, they should have tampons available in the boys' bathroom, without looking at they're indoctrinating the kids with neo-Marxist gender ideology in schools instead of teaching math. The simple common sense would tell you that a kid at 9 years old is not saying, "Mommy, I want to be a girl," or "I want to be a boy," instead of "what I am." That is coercion from adults, okay? That's something they picked up in school. It's something they're talking about. They don't even understand what they're saying. And everybody has personal experience with that. I got a relative of mine, when we were young, probably 11, 12 years old, would make a joke about something we heard at school, which was something like, "Hey, gay boy, got your heart on?" That's something they heard on the school ground or somewhere, and they repeated it without understanding really what it was they were saying. So when you have the mentality of a child, they're easily impressionable with bullshit, and they're being corrupted by gender ideology in schools. So that has to stop. They got to teach math, science, and how to get through things in future employment and life. And Timmy Tampons signed that bill putting tampons in schools, in the boys' bathrooms, for girls that identify as boys at 9 years old and up. Now, on its face, okay, that is completely outrageous, insulting, irrational, no common sense, and their argument is, well, sometimes 9-year-olds menstruate. Yeah, well, the point being, they shouldn't be in the boys' bathroom to friggin' begin with, okay? That's the friggin' point of it. How did they get in there? They were coerced and told a bunch of nonsense to do that. So, you know, it's just wrong. They're friggin' minors. Don't care what you do as an adult. I don't care what you do as an adult. Do what you want to do, but leave the damn kids alone, okay? Just leave the friggin' kids alone. Their only job at that age is to be kids, not to be sexualized. And they say, well, how is giving tampons to girls that want to be boys, how is that sexualizing them? Because you're basing that stuff on their sex, okay? You're basing it on their sex, okay? So they're being sexually exploited, sexualized, and sexually exploited for politics. And make no mistake, this gender ideology is neo-Marxist ideologies. They deliver it that way. They pressure the public into it through shaming them in public if they don't go along with it, by calling them a bigot or a transphobe. They do it with all social issues, all of them. You're either a xenophobe, transphobe, bigot, racist, misogynist, and you know, what's the greatest misogyny we're seeing right now? Telling men that they're women. How much of a freaking insult is that to women? I mean, come on now. This guy's got a penis. Some of these people have beards. And they go in the ladies' room wearing a dress and they're masturbating all over the place. I'm not saying it to be, you know, crude or rude, but that's what they're doing. There's videos online of these people recording themselves like they've done something amazing and they're posting it. And of course they're always wearing a mask to hide their identity because they're, you know, they're so proud. Now that's not to say, and that's the other thing too, it's genuinely insulting to people that do suffer from gender dysphoria. People that do have a mental disorder, similar to something like anorexia, where they have a body dysmorphia. And when they see themselves in the mirror, they feel extremely either repulsed, uncomfortable at seeing their male appearance, and then they feel better when they look like a female. That's an actual mental disorder. I don't blame any of those people. Most of them just want to blend into society, be left alone, and not be an oddity. They just want to be comfortable and live their lives in peace and quiet and not bother anybody. That's fine, okay? This is America, you can do what you want. But you're forcing other people to play along with it, or they lose their job, promotion, or the media does a story on them and ruins their business. Saying this cake shop won't bake a cake for this trans couple that want to get married. They are racist and xenophobes and transphobes. No, it just goes against their freedom of religion, okay? Every time you give a segment of society special rights, you're infringing on somebody else's rights. You give trans people special rights, bathrooms, and you can't complain about it. Then the female whose rights are being violated, where she doesn't feel safe in a locker room or restroom with men, you're violating her rights. Everybody's rights are guaranteed by the Constitution, even trans people, gays, whatever. That's just, you know, that's just the way it is. Everybody has the same rights as everybody else. You can't be discriminated against. You can't be fired because you voted for Donald Trump. Okay, there's a good example. Yet they're doing it anyway. So those are the kind of things that Tim Walz and Kamala Harris, which is California Kamala Harris, okay? You need to make sure you make that distinction to people. She was voted the most radical leftist senator in the Senate just a few years ago because of the bills that she sponsored or co-sponsored. One of them was a bill for free health care for everybody with Bernie Sanders. That would have I can't even think of their name, but that office that calculates the cost of government, the budget office, congressional, CBO, Congressional Budget Office, estimated to implement that would cost $5 trillion. $5 trillion, okay? That's more than the gross domestic product, GDP, and any other income raised from taxes from the government. They would have to raise people's taxes probably 60 to 70% just to pay for that. And she sponsored that. So lately she's been talking about banning assault-style rifles with an executive order pen because nobody's done that yet. They haven't had the gonads to do that yet. Well, there's a reason, because the Supreme Court's not going to allow that. And but she's going to do it anyway. She's already said she would. And we have an anyone but Trump sign on the lawn here. Okay, you see that? Anyone but Trump. And see that? What a schmuck. Anyone but Trump. That means even Kamala Harris instead of Trump. That's what that means. So hopefully people like that won't vote at all. And over here we have somebody that loves Trump. So this is pretty much where our country's at, isn't it? So we get this beautiful Trump sign. And so I think our Trump fight flag showed up today in the mail, I think. I'll check it out later after my walk and I get back to the house. So tracking says it was delivered. So anyway, so you got the media who is coddling Kamala Harris, like they did for Biden. They hid Biden in the basement for the entire election season under the guise of COVID and he's old. And they got away with it. And then we started to see how deteriorated he was after he won, which he didn't win, but that's a whole nother discussion. And then they had a one of those things where before the election he was from his basement doing a campaign promotional thing via Zoom live, and I think that's when they learned they should stop doing live things with Biden. because he started not making sense, couldn't recall what he was supposed to say, and then you could see him slip his hand under the table. He didn't know it was in camera frame. Slipping his hand under the table, snapping his fingers like, I need my cards. And somebody slipped him his index cards with the talking points on them. I will remember that as clear as day. Republicans talked about it, and that was it. And the media ignored it. Everybody ignored it. That was against Donald Trump. And that's what we got. I mean, I don't have to explain this stuff. If you're watching this, you already know that. So, anyway, got to find a way to circumvent the media. And I think Trump found a way to do it. Because he has this TikTok that he started. Talked about this the other night. It's taken off like gangbusters. Tens of millions of young people are checking out his channel, even the people that hate him. So something may resonate with some of them. And he's got a lot of support from young people. They were very unhappy with Joe Biden. Now we're starting to see the transition between Biden and Kamala. And Kamala is liked more than Biden by young people, but she's not blowing the doors off Trump, okay? That's the other thing. Think about that. Biden got forced out. Kamala's been there, what, a couple weeks now? She's picked a VP. So everybody knows what the campaign is going to be now. It's not going to be about Kamala's policies. She still hasn't put any on her website. She has no policies she's running on listed on her website, and she doesn't talk about them. She just gets on a stage and says, you know, inflation's high, we got to get your prices down, this is what we're going to do. She doesn't say how, and that isn't going to work for very long, okay? And I think people are just about ready to start figuring that out. She's not talking about anything. Now I will tell you from my experience, which may be limited compared to older people than me who have seen a lot more, but I'm 56, I've seen quite a few elections. Certainly no expert any more than anybody else, but the media has been garbage, as everybody's noticed. And when you see the media calling for her to do interviews, they're not going to come out and say, she needs to do interviews. This is unacceptable. They're not going to do it like that. What they'll do is, this week on 60 Minutes, an interview with Kamala Harris. It'll be rehearsed, edited, not live. So what they're going to do is they're going to wait out as long as they can with no live interviews. And then when they do cave in to do interviews, because the public wants it, they're going to do media interviews that are pre-recorded. George Stephanopoulos, 60 Minutes, you know how that goes. And they're going to want to do interviews with Trump, and Trump's going to do them. But they're not going to curry him the same favor. Anything he says wrong will be left in, or they will do some editing in a way to make him look bad, like they've done before, or they will get the person doing the interview to get in an argument with Trump so he looks like a combative, angry person. And that puts Trump in an impossible position, because he can't let them walk all over him, and he can't retaliate too much. But what I would do if I was him is they'll ask something, you know, like, what are you going to do about the economy? You can say, well, we're going to make it the way it was before when I was president, and instead of going into his usual thing, his talking points, this is what I did it. People have already heard that. Say, now this ridiculous lie that you media people have been pushing about bloodbath if I lose, I was talking about our car industry going to Mexico. That's what he needs to say. You know, erase their talking points. Hi, nice dog. Yeah. That's a pretty one. What a beautiful dog. And you guys that watch this already know that I've talked about this before. I absolutely love how huskies look, and if I did get a dog, I would want a husky, despite them being loud, noisy, and they talk a lot, okay? Usually when you don't want them to. So they're very vocal dogs. It would require a lot of patience, or to find one that wasn't vocal, which may be difficult, but I don't know. But they would be really cool looking dogs like that one. So anyway, Trump should find ways to interject, and that's one thing I've noticed with J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance is very sharp. He finds opportunities to counter their talking points while he's giving speeches. He's very good at it, and that's something Donald Trump is not good at. He's never been good at it, and now half the country hates him because of it, because they misunderstand what was said because the media twisted it into something else. Like to find people on both sides. You still have people that believe that. That's been debunked by all the media now. And but you know, these people have been poisoned, and they're watching news networks that aren't telling them it's been debunked. I mean, what can you do with that? Take advantage of your opportunities. The beautiful thing is he was already president. People remember what food cost when he was president, how much gas was. Just talk about your policies. This is my energy policy. There's no reason for everything to be this expensive. If we open the taps in our oil and energy, we have more oil under the United States than Saudi Arabia has. And you can actually look that up. With the modern technology we have, we know how to get it. It's called fracking. Now, fracking is kind of a complicated process. If you research it, what you're doing is you're injecting the ground with pressure, which forces oil up that normally wouldn't come up on its own. They've argued that it leads to earthquakes and other things, and there's really no solid proof of that. And even if there was, I mean, cripes. We got more oil under us than Saudi Arabia has. Think about that. That's where the whole entire world goes, pretty much, for their oil. Iran, the Middle East, Saudi Arabia. Russia produces mostly natural gas. They have more natural gas than oil. They actually have tons of it. And that's why natural gas prices in Europe are so high, because they've cut off Putin stupidly. And the people are suffering for it, which is always who suffers for it, right? This person doing some nice yard work. So we got to get that, we got to get that oil up. That lowers everybody's food costs when energy doesn't cost very much to put in your car and your transportation and your trucks. And these climate nuts, which is what they are because it's a scam, are going crazy on that. We have to get rid of fossil fuels. Remember that big recycling push in the 80s? Crazy nonsense, like, the North Pole is going to melt. We need to start recycling. The pollution produced by factories is doing this and that. They've been using this forever. You know, by 2020, I remember this, by 2020 to 2030, landfills in America were going to be full if we didn't recycle. And what they've been doing, and this has been uncovered by undercover investigative journalists, actually one done by CBS while Trump was president, that showed, this is that thing I was telling you about, where they've been doing all these side streets. This is all infrastructure bill that your tax dollars paid for. So I figured you could at least get a look at it, right? Susan Collins secured some of that for Lewiston. because she's our senator. So Zelensky in Ukraine got the rest of it, I'm sure. But anyway, I digress. So they're going crazy with this, and this recycling thing in the 80s was very similar. Landfills would be full, and what CBS revealed, and also in Canada, is that much of this recycling stuff picked up off the side of the road in the blue bins, it's not being recycled. About 90% of it is not recycled. It's incinerated. They burn it. Which, guess what? Puts carbon in the air, which was the whole purpose why they didn't want to bury it in the ground, because of the carbon it takes to produce it. If you recycled it, it would cut down on plastic and petroleum use. And it's just unrealistic. It's a sales job, it's a con job, and people elected to government are the ones getting rich off it. Most of these politicians are invested in the electric vehicle industry, and they're trying to get electric vehicle mandates passed, and it's going to make them a fortune, and it's going to enrich China, an enemy of our country. That's what communism does, folks. So, welcome to Planet Looney Tunes. So anyway, Tim Walz is a socialist, worse than Bernie Sanders. He's going to rubber stamp anything that Kamala wants to do. Crazy Kamala. He'll just rubber stamp everything. And the good news is I saw a poll today taken since they've announced Tim Walz. 50% of the country is not sure about him yet. They don't know much about him because he really hasn't been in the media, which is one of the reasons why they picked him. They're trying to sell him as an everyday Joe Blow gun enthusiast. He shoots quail once in a while. I saw a picture of him hunting. It looked like his gear was barely used. Anybody that goes shooting often, you can't keep your shooting vest clean, okay? You just can't. His look new, you know, maybe he's got all kinds of money and just opens a new vest every time he goes, but it looked like a stage photo op. But he does go quail hunting, just not as often as they're trying to make it look. And they also, he also got caught lying about his military record in the National Guard. Now, I'll explain to you what that's about, because the media is trying to discount it as nothing. They're going to say, well, he had 24 years in, and he agreed to sign up for 6 more years, and then he dropped out to run for Congress. Now, that's true. But what the media is lying about, and what Tim Walz won't answer any questions about, is why he dropped out. He was a sergeant, okay? Sergeant major. He passes himself off as a sergeant major commander rank. But what happened was, he re-signed up, he re-upped. And then the Iraq war was going to happen. He didn't want to go to war. He was a leader in that unit, okay? What you need to understand is he was leading 500 to 600 men, okay, under him. That's what people need to understand in this, why it was so bad. So, there's a thing called a call of duty. The government said, you guys got to start training. There's something going on. We're going to be deployed overseas, and you need to be ready for that. So he had advance warning that we were going to be in a war. And instead of staying and training his men, because he had all this experience of 24 years, he quit. And that really pissed off a lot of veterans in his unit who are speaking up now. They're still mad at him for it. These aren't, you know, Republican versus Democrat. These are people that were in his unit that got sent overseas and fought in Iraq. And some of them died horribly. And Tim Walz got himself out of it by running for Congress. So, which, by the way, when he ran for governor of Minnesota, this is really funny. In Minnesota, he was living in a red district. He's known as a, you know, and what the Democrats are using him for now is to try to win Minnesota, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, because Kamala needs to win all of those to win the election, where Trump basically just has to win one, preferably Pennsylvania, 19 points. So if Kamala loses Pennsylvania, she's not going to win the election, I guess is what I'm saying, and they understand that. So they picked Tim Walz instead of Josh Shapiro. I believe that's his name, Josh. His last name is Shapiro. I may be confusing him with somebody else. Forgive me. I'm not a walking encyclopedia. That is the governor of Pennsylvania. He was the best choice that she could have made. He had 56% approval rating in Pennsylvania, according to polling I looked at, as governor. Tim Walz has 52% approval in Minnesota. But Minnesota, right now, Kamala is about maybe 6 points ahead of Trump in Minnesota. And Biden, when he won it in 2020, was 10 points ahead. So those kind of things are, you know, it seems like a lot of times when, looks like there was an accident here at some point. Car parts on the side of the road usually means there was an accident. And it seems like every time Kamala Harris makes a decision with her campaign, it's always a bad one. She did it in 2020 in the primary. I mentioned this before. She had all kinds of financial support. All she had to do was go up there on the stage, and what did she do? She accused Joe Biden of being a racist. Then she started telling ridiculous stories, and she looked like an idiot, because she is. And the voters didn't choose her. So she couldn't even get 3% of the voters. And that's about what she was getting as vice president, by the way, I should add. Because when somebody's running for president, the vice presidential pick, it's not overly important, but it matters some, okay? And now Tim Walz is a radical socialist who plays himself off as a moderate, which he's not. The media is just going to say moderate with his name. You know, that smiling uncle that comes to family functions, that's how they're framing him. And truth of the matter is he's a socialist. That will reveal itself. Does it affect overall Kamala and Trump? Nah, probably not. Just like J.D. Vance, it's a little bit, you know, but not really significant, depending on what they say and do. Now, Tim Walz, to me, seems like he's doing all the talking, and Kamala Harris isn't doing much talking at all. So maybe that's part of their plan too, to deflect away from the Biden-Harris horrible record by making Tim Walz the point of topic to talk about. Which would be a weird strategy, because Voters don't care about what Tim Walz has to say. What's Kamala going to do as president? How is she going to handle Xi of China? How is she going to handle Ukraine? Saying things, you know, like illegals should get health care paid for by the government, which she supported in the past. And all of a sudden, you know, they're making that, hold on a second. So all of a sudden they're making that, they're distancing her from that rhetoric because they're stuck with her. So it's the job of the Trump campaign to bring that out to light for the public. That's why I was saying when he does these interviews on TV, he needs to hammer that stuff. JD Vance has been doing a great job of it. The media has actually been covering him because they have to. He's not giving them the opportunity to disregard something. Everything he says has to do with Kamala and their policies. And that's what you're going to have to do. Now CNN is back in the tank for Democrats, but I'll give them credit. They've been showing more of Trump and JD Vance speaking their talking points. So basically what they've been doing is they were allowing JD Vance and Donald Trump to spew their talking points, and then they come on and they kind of like try to disinformation it, okay? That's better than what the other networks are doing. The other networks are just not showing them. So take what we can get. This is the new face of CNN, supposedly. They're trying to get their viewers back. And I have been watching them a little bit more for free. I don't pay for them. So hi. How's it going? Pretty good. So now we're getting into the swing of the election. Vice presidential pick for Democrats has been chosen. Now the other thing I've been thinking about is Dan Scavino, who is Trump's internet guru, has been since the beginning, which is an interesting story, by the way, in itself. You care to look it up. Dan Scavino was just a younger guy, didn't really know what direction he was going to go in his life. And Donald Trump gave him a job years ago, even before he ran for president. And I think Dan Scavino met him, I think he was carrying somebody's bag playing golf. He wasn't even there to play golf. I think he was just carrying somebody's bag. Trump gave him a job, and he's been with Trump ever since. He's the main internet guru guy. He's the one that films all the rallies, does the video for the commercials and all that stuff. And really good story. But he was talking about, he's hearing things about Joe Biden in hindsight now, after being forced out of the presidency, which he was. It was a coup, okay? The Democrats staged a freaking coup on Joe Biden. He wasn't doing well in the polls, probably wasn't going to win, and they got rid of him. They ousted him against his will. They forced him out. Donors said, I'm going to hold on to $100 million until you say you're done. I'm not giving it to the campaign, the super PAC. The PAC was holding on to the money. And the other thing that happened was Joe got diagnosed with COVID. Now, he was given 10 doses of Paxlovid, according to the White House doctor. And we don't know what kind of shenanigans were being played. I don't know how honest and up that was. He may not have even had COVID. They might have just told him he tested positive to get him out of the way while they plotted this coup. And of course, this is just conspiracy. This is just me. You know, I don't spread conspiracy as news. This is my own personal opinion, okay? Let me get that out there. That they wanted him out and they got him out. I'll get back to Scavino and Trump in a minute. So, what I believe they did was they got him out of the way. They announced that he was stepping down and not accepting the nomination in public on social media, okay? They made the announcement on social media. It was quickly pointed out that it was not on official White House letterhead, and it was not Biden's real signature. He doesn't underline his name like that with a dot. That was even corroborated by people that were supporting him, that know what his signature looks like, and you can look up his signature online. It's all over the place. So they forged that. His administration that he appointed did this to him, in my opinion. And in my opinion alone, okay? This is just a walking vlog. It's my opinion. So, I don't want my account flagged for false info. I'm not pushing false info, okay? I'm pushing my opinion about what I think may have happened. Because Dan Scavino says he's been hearing from people in politics saying that he was pushed out and he knows it now and he's not happy with it. He didn't want to step down. He went in front of the whole country and said, I'm not going anywhere. Then all of a sudden he's stepping down, and they made him look like an ass, and he's not happy about it. So what they're doing is they removed him, and I think he might try to get himself back in. They might try to get him back in by through the DNC convention that's coming up, and they might try to get him back in, his people that were loyal to him, and say that I was forced out, it was a coup, I did not agree to this, they issued a false letter. That's all he would have to say. And he would understand the turmoil that it caused. But what you ended up having is you have this kind of like palace envy. People always looking for power. Okay, Kamala Harris has wanted to be president for a long time. Okay, most of these people do. And so they do those things and they might have gone too far, because they've gone far with everything else, and look what they did. And the only reason why I'm saying this is they appointed Kamala Harris without having any votes for it, trying to say, well, people voted for the Biden-Harris ticket in the primary, and you know, she's still in it. It doesn't work like that. 2025 is a whole new presidency. It was Biden at the top of the ticket. If he stepped off of it, that means Harris comes off it too. So now they just installed her. And a lot of people are upset about it. Especially minorities who now feel like their vote didn't count because they did that. And they're right. They're absolutely right. The Voting Act of 1965, they just had their votes usurped by the establishment, Democratic National Party. So he could theoretically say, you know what, this is what they did to me, and then he could show up at the DNC convention August 19th and raise all kinds of hell with that. He could. Wouldn't that be a stunner? I was forced out against my will by my administration because they didn't want to lose, and I didn't want to step down. And they fabricated a resignation, which really wasn't a resignation, but a non-acceptance of the nomination by the party. I mean, theoretically, he could do that, and legally he would have the right. He's the president of the United States. Regardless, above all, he could say this is what they did to the president of the United States. It was a disgrace to this office, should not be allowed. These people should be held accountable. I wonder how the public would perceive that. And the reason why I say that is I've heard that from 3 different sources now. One was Trump, one was Dan Scavino, Trump's guy, and another one was a Republican congressman. And then there's 2 other people that wish to remain anonymous who have been telling the media the same thing. So there's something brewing in the background. I don't know how much validity there is to it, but we'll find out. And Biden would certainly have an argument. You'd have to agree. So I guess what I'm getting at is Kamala Harris and Tim Walz may not be the candidates that are chosen. Now, she was officially made the candidate this past Monday via Zoom committee with the DNC, but they haven't had their official convention yet for voters. Not that voters got to vote anyway, they didn't. And I have a feeling there's a lot of backlash for their doing that. I know Black Lives Matter was very upset about it. Rightfully. They said black votes are being disenfranchised. And they're actually right. This is one of the few times I will agree with Black Lives Matter. You don't want to piss off these Marxists. So we'll see what comes of it. They certainly do have a legitimate argument. If Biden did come out to the convention, not tell anybody, and then just announce that to the whole world watching, they staged a coup and stole my presidency. I mean, holy crap, wouldn't that be something? Given all the stuff we've seen this year, wow. Now, that is August 19th, and I believe Trump's sentencing is going to be in September 11th, I think it is, or 18th. I think it's the 18th. So September 18th is Trump's sentencing with Merchan, and wow, you know, what's he gonna do? Trump, first criminal offense, typically they'll get like probation or a period of house arrest. Trump's not a flight risk, even though the media is going to try to say he is because he's rich and he owns planes, and he's not going to be able to fly anywhere outside the country without permission if they do something like that. And typically he should just get probation. Shouldn't be a jail sentence. A lot of times those people don't get jail sentences. Their first offense. It's literally his first offense. I mean, you know, they found him guilty in a civil trial, but that's not a criminal offense. It's not a criminal trial. There was no criminal sexual assault charges. So that's not on his record. Now, I don't know what kind of pressure that he might be under from district attorneys in New York, and to let you know how crazy they are. I think I talked about this the other night, but I don't remember if I used and uploaded the video, so I'll just go over it again. But in 2014, RFK Jr., yes, the third party candidate in the presidential election, was driving in New York, which isn't unusual because he lives there, which if he was smart he wouldn't live there, and this is why. He was driving behind this woman, and the woman hit a bear cub. A bear, you know, a little bear. Arr, bears. She killed the bear. She kept going. So he stopped and he picked up the roadkill, which is legal. And he's like, well, you know what? I like bear meat, and I'm going to take it home and skin it, and I'm going to keep the bear skin. That's legal too. So that's what he did. He picked it up and put it in his car. All right, well, he was going to New York City, and this happened on the way to his engagement he had. He had to go do some things politically. This was in 2014, okay, to give it some context. It's a long time ago, 10 years ago. And he had to go to a restaurant for an engagement with people that had to do with business that he was talking to. And he decided that it was not the best thing to leave a dead bear in his car while he was gone. So he took the bear out of his car from the trunk, and he put a dead bear by a bicycle rack in Central Park, the entrance of Central Park in New York City. Well, he didn't think it was going to be, you know, a big deal. So he goes to his dinner engagement, finishes up there, goes back home. Then he notices there's national news coverage about a dead bear found in Central Park. Who would put that there? Why is that there? How did a bear cub get at Central Park, and why did they leave it next to a bike rack? So the police actually did an investigation on that, and RFK, I guess giggling to himself, just ignored it and said, geez, that's ridiculous. And then 10 years passed. So on his social media account, he posted a video of an interview he did with Roseanne. And I don't know how new the interview was with Roseanne, but he talked about the bear incident and that he was the one that did it. Thinking, you know, like, big deal, right? It's not against the law, is it? It was a roadkill he picked up, and he just decided not to keep it. So he didn't kill the bear. The reason why I bring that up, why he shouldn't be in New York, is a couple days ago in the news, I saw that DA Bragg in New York City was thinking about bringing charges against RFK Jr. for that. Can you believe that? Can you believe that? Because he's going to take some votes away from Kamala Harris. These people are crooked, okay? Now, I don't think they'll be able to, because there was a 10-year statute of limitations on that. And I don't know when the bear was found. And it is 10 years later. So, I mean, this is crazy stuff, okay? I'm telling you people, stay the hell away from New York. Don't live there. If you gotta work there, that's fine, that's one thing. But if you are a company owner and you are anywhere near being non-Democrat, just pack your company up and move. Just do it, or else you won't have one. Because that day will come where they're really going to crack down on anything. So we're headed there now. Okay, I got that story out of the way. Probably my last story I'm going to discuss is, again, I don't remember the guy's name, but he used to work for the George Bush administration. He was part of the United Nations having to do with weapons for the George Bush administration. He was involved in the Iraq War. Republican. He has been openly in the media and on social media heavily criticizing our government's involvement in the Ukraine war. And he made what was called in the media article I read, quote, several trips to Russia. So he's been actively speaking out against the Ukraine war, and there's this place here, they got a new Trump flag. No, that's the thin blue line police flag. They usually have a Trump flag, but so anyway, this guy, they said he went to Russia a few times. The article said several times. They didn't specify how many times. They could be calling 3 times several, you know what I mean? Anyway, outspoken against Ukraine and the war, and he used to work for our government. So apparently the Department of Justice, which has been weaponized by the Biden administration, has been looking into him, and they showed up in his house, guess where? In New York State. They showed up at his house with a search warrant, seizing all his electronic devices. They raided his home, went through his vehicles, all his property, and they took what they felt was necessary. And that's just what they did, okay? He said that he's not worried about it because he hasn't done anything wrong, and he's actually quite surprised by it. And he goes, you know, he told the media that was there, CBS was there, yeah, I don't know anything about this. It's not going to be anything. I didn't do anything. Hey, doggy. So they may fabricate something against them. That's always possible. I don't trust the Department of Justice. And the FBI did the raid, and he told the media he was talking to that, you know, they were professional, they were really good, and he didn't have a problem with them. He goes, they're not going to find anything, you know, whatever. So, point being, they targeted him. And they're going there looking for a crime, because they're going to use the Patriot Act, domestic terrorism, spying, that sort of thing, which is exactly what everybody warned everybody about when they wanted to pass that. It's going to be abused by somebody at some point. It's too much power for the government to have. So the reason why I bring that up, I had just been talking about RFK. Well, RFK is good friends with them. Both of them have posted pictures on their social media pages of each other eating out somewhere together. So I think this is more about targeting RFK, and I exampled that by DA Bragg thinking about charging him for the bear incident, and the fact that this guy was having dinner with RFK more than once, and he's going back and forth to Russia. Well, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out what this DOJ is going to do. They're going to try to say RFK is a Russian agent, like they did with Trump in 2016, to try to get more votes for Biden. Harris. Still yet to be seen if it's going to be Biden. We'll watch that unfold with intrigue. But you see how these people work, though? Absolutely disgusting. Horrifying. And, you know, we grew up thinking, geez, hope our country never goes that well. We're here. It's here now. They're doing it. They are targeting dissidents and subversives. Okay? That's it. This is the day and age where you need to be quiet about what you say on the internet. Anti-government speak, or random stupid commentary that some people do online. Somebody ought to do this or that to this person. By golly, if I had the chance, I would do it. And then they get Secret Service at their door. Then you get put on a list. And then you go buy a plane ticket and they say, well, sorry sir, we can't sell you a plane ticket. You're on a domestic terrorist watch list. Well, sir, I understand you didn't have due process. You were never charged with anything. But the government can do that under the Patriot Act and domestic terrorism. You no longer have any rights to fly. That happened to Laura Loomer, congressional candidate. They did that to her. They took away her ability to buy firearms because she spoke up too loudly against Muslims down south in Florida. And she's been targeted. She's associates herself very closely with Trump is another thing, which I think was the main driving factor of that. And she's a leading voice among conservatives on the internet. So they're punishing her for that. Steve Bannon's in jail right now. He'll be released before the election. But they put him in jail because he wouldn't testify to the J6 committee because he said it was a scam, it was a joke, and it was just politics, and he won't partake in it. He just refused on principle. He said, they want to put me in jail, put me in jail. I'm not doing it. And yeah, that's what they did. And he knew they were going to do that. So there's a lot of people out there that love this country willing to sacrifice like that. They are the patriots. And if you're not going along with any of this, like I'm not, then I guess that means you're a patriot too. This country is right on the precipice, right on the tipping point of going somewhere this country's never gone, to the left, in a bad way. Typically you'd say, okay, well, you know, Democrats won this time, we'll get them in 4 years. But I'm telling you, we lose this election, you're never going to see a Republican elected to office again. They'll never have power again. They're going to add to the Senate. They're going to pack the Supreme Court, and they're going to do like these banana republics do and have the Supreme Court rubber stamp everything the party wants to do. Take your guns, whatever. Very dangerous time for us. We're a really young country. 270 years, I believe, or less. $250, I want to say 251, 52 maybe. Whatever the case is, we're young enough to fail still. And a lot of these people are so arrogant, you know, they think we're too big to fail because we're so powerful. Well, the United Kingdom was the most powerful military on earth, and a bunch of uppity colonists in America stood up to them and fought with rags on because they wanted to be free, and they beat them. And you know, most of our founders did not have American accents like we know it today. So it was a British colony. That's why they put the Second Amendment in there, and that's why they put the First Amendment in there. So the government can never control what the people do. But they're working like hell at it, aren't they? So far, that piece of paper is stopping them from ending everything that we love today in America. So, trying times. I think we'll be okay though. I think we still got enough of a pulse left. People aren't going to take this socialism crap. Even when Obama was president, he was like, hey, don't talk about this socialist stuff. It's a loser. We won't win any elections. Thanks. So that's why Bernie Sanders never really got anywhere. He was too radical. Next to Gavin Newsom in California, Tim Walz, and Kamala Harris, he's a moderate. This is really bad, folks. We're going to see how good the media still is at selling this to the people. Judging by the polls, they're not falling for it. You know, and I have to be honest about it. Half the country does not like Donald Trump. As we just saw by that sign, anybody but Trump. I got news for that person. This district, Trump has already won this district. He's already got this electoral college vote. He's leading Kamala Harris by 25 points. "25 points. I did not stutter. Now, Maine District 1, that's a different story. Statewide, Kamala's ahead by 8 points, 6 to 8 points. She'll win the state of Maine technically, but not this district. And I know it's only one electoral college vote, but it's going to Trump. It'll go to Trump for the third time. So that's good. That makes me feel good. So technically, I guess my vote doesn't matter in this election. It's already been decided. I'd be hard pressed to think that Trump's going to blow a 25-point lead. So I had to watch that truck. And they started to roll back and put their brakes on. I didn't know if they were braking for somebody going behind them, because they were in reverse, and then they put it in drive or park. So I didn't know if they were going to back out because they didn't see me. So you always got to watch those sort of things when you're walking. So anyway, aren't you glad you walked with me today? We got to talk about a lot of stuff, a lot of important things. There's a lot of things going on. It's a big deal. All right, much nicer today, a lot more moderate humidity. I'm still sweating right now because it's 79, 80 degrees, but it's not that stifling tropical humidity garbage. Like right now. All right, had to re-aim. Had to change the battery and re-aim. Just as I hit the 5-mile mark, the battery quit. So I just changed the battery for the last leg. Anyway, it's been a good walk today, I think. It's been nice. Got a sweaty brow. So it's warm enough to sweat, but I'm not dying. So between now and the election, we're going to have lots of things to talk about as they come up, I guess. So in conclusion, keep an eye on the Democratic convention coming up. I'm not anticipating anything crazy, but there's a possibility something crazy could happen, okay? We're also going to watch the polls. Kamala is starting to level off. When they have that Democratic convention, if nothing crazy happens at it, she'll get a slight bump from that. Some people are predicting that we're not going to have a debate. Kamala's terrible at debates. Some people are predicting that Trump's going to want a debate and she's not going to want to. She's already making excuses with the one that was scheduled for Biden because Trump said he wasn't going to do it because he has a lawsuit with Stephanopoulos and ABC. And rightfully, it's a conflict of interest. So he wants to do it on another network and she doesn't want to do it. She said she's going to show up to the one on ABC, and if Trump doesn't show up, he doesn't show up. I don't think the network is going to cover it as a debate. They'll probably do it as a town hall for Kamala, where I'm hoping she says a couple of dumb things, which she's more than capable of. So kids having fun. Anyways, all kinds of exciting things. So keep an eye on those things. Also, check out the RFK story with the bear cub I was telling you about. It's kind of interesting to read about. Crazy times. We're in crazy times. So we'll walk out the rest of this walk and probably just end it while I'm walking on this stretch, because this has already been long enough. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. Stay safe out there. Look out for one another. God bless you, and God bless America. Click like and subscribe. Hope you enjoy my content. You're free to share it if you want to. And I thank you very much for walking with me today. So hopefully you got some things to think about. I do. And we will see you on the next walk. Bye bye everybody. Thanks a lot and have a great week.